Welcome to Teen Summit Talks, Teen Summit Interviews. Okay, so welcome to another Teen Summit Talk. Today we are focusing on teen boys, and I have three amazing guests with me. I have amazing guests all the time, I'm just blessed. But I have three amazing guests with me today. Two of those guests have taken part in two Teen Summit events, and one was supposed to take part in the next Teen Boys Summit, but unfortunately we've had to move it because of the pandemic. So I'm going to move on to introductions in a second, but the objective of today's conversation is to talk about healthy relationships in teen boys and how do we develop it and how do we teach it. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to ask Mark to introduce himself.
Thank you very much indeed. So you got the first part of my name. My name is Mark. My surname is Oviri. For want of better words, I am a head of year 11 in a inner city London secondary school. So the school I work in particularly is in southeast London. As you can understand, the demographic consists of a variety of pupils, but there are a lot of kind of pupil premium, SEN, boys from particular ethnic backgrounds as well. So I work extremely hard to get those boys the grades that they need. And that's what I do in a nutshell.
Thank you. Mervyn.
Hi, my name is Mervyn Mensah. So I'm a speaker and a coach. I go into schools similar to the schools that Mark has just explained. And my aim is to raise aspirations, change behavior, and increase confidence in the young people that I work with. So I've been doing that for around about 2.5 years, gone into roughly about 25 different schools and actually reached hundreds, if not thousands of students.
Thank you. Martin, aka DJ Milk Tray.
Good afternoon, everybody. Myself, Martin Wright, aka DJ Milk Tray, from Sweetway Entertainment, Flex FM. There you go. I'm a DJ, motivational speaker, teacher. I teach kids how to DJ. I work in a program called the Safety Box and Aspire Higher. We go into prisons, speak to young men, etc. And I just love serving my people. That's really what I love doing. That's my thing.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to go fire off with some starter questions. So the first question is, I'm assuming you all love music. I do. So what is that one tune? It doesn't even matter, there's no one on the dance floor. That one tune that will get you on the dance floor.
Oh, well, year 11's Close Your Ears right now, because you don't need to listen to this to understand what I am. But no, do you know, I've got a variety of things, but I really like trap music. That's my thing. So it's like if I hear a certain beat, I'm more so of a beat person. So if I hear a certain beat, that's it for me. I'm running onto the dance floor. I'm clearing people out of the way. So I would say, you know, the tune I remember the most actually is when Usher and Little John, when they had their first tune, was Yeah.
Yeah.
That tune made me barge people out of the way. Marvin, Keisha, Milk Tray, you would have been on the floor. And I would have been there just dancing and dancing away. So, yeah, that's kind of my thing. I like music with high energy levels.
Burner Boy, you know what I mean? And there's one track in it, always gets me up, man. It's called Killing Them. I don't know if you know that track, yeah? There's a certain dance move that you got to do as well when it goes along with it, yeah? There you go. You got to be careful, because you can injure yourself if you don't do it right. But yeah, that one, I had it playing on my 40th birthday last year, so that one always gets me going.
For myself, I'd probably say Palance. Palance is that one song, like, because I'm obviously I'm a DJ and I love all types of music. I'm a little bit of a soca baby, even though my family are from Jamaica, but I'm a soca baby. So if you put Palance on, just clear it, just make space, yeah. Cause the thing is, I'm taking couples with me as well. If I'm on the floor, I'm taking you with me, yeah. Because you can't balance by yourself. So just know, me and Mark have been on a few dance floors together before, and it's a bit mad. So the balance, that's all day.
Brilliant. All right, so now we're going to go back to our memories in secondary school. So thinking back, what's your favorite or your best memory from secondary school?
Really good question, actually. I had to really think about this one because unfortunately, secondary school wasn't the best of times for me. But I would say that I had a teacher that really believed in me, and he still kind of leaves his mark on me now. So I've got to give him a big shout out, Mr. Saibu. He really believed in what I could do and what I can achieve. And I loved playing basketball back then anyway. So he really used to push me and tell me, Mark, go and play basketball. He used to phone my dad because my dad would say, I don't want him bouncing any form of balls. Just go out and enter your books. And he would say, no, let him play basketball. He's really good. So I would say that like, playing basketball and having Mr. Saibu on my side was a really good thing for me.
If I were to kind of narrow it down to something educational, as opposed to sort of something that I did with the boys or, you know, some fun that we might have experienced. Educational, I remember I used to love maths, right? And I think when I was in year 9, I entered this UK challenge. It was a NatWest challenge about maths. And only a few of us went ahead to do that. And I did this NatWest challenge, this exam, it was a test, did that. And I came back and I had like a silver certificate, a silver award certificate. And yeah, that was probably the first time that I got any kind of recognition for doing something in the school. So yeah, that one really did make me proud. I'll leave all the other fun stories for another day, another time. You know what I'm saying? But in terms of on the educational side, that's a good memory, yeah.
For myself, mine's one with the man them, I'm not gonna lie. So we used to go to a school called Elliot in Putney, and when we got to a certain age, I think it was like in our 4th year, we were allowed to like go out of school for lunch. So we used to walk down Putney Hill to Putney High Street, and there used to be a little chicken shop there. But instead of walking down Putney Hill, we'd walk around the back, and we used to have to walk through this estate. And on this estate, there was this dog that lived on the estate, and it would just govern the entire estate. So one day we said, nah, like we're not walking around the estate no more. So we're walking through. So me and the Donnies was out there, walked through, we saw the dog started to chase us, yeah. And I swear to God, I jumped over a Ford Escort over the bonnet, one hand business, like I was in the professionals, like I was in like Hawaii 5-0. Like the fact that I made it over the car and the dog never got me. Man made it to the chicken shop in one piece. Hey, I was happy.
Oh my goodness, hilarious. Okay, so thinking back, I'm quite blessed. I still have my school friends. So I went to 3 secondary schools. I went to St. Teresa's in Lewisham, which is now Christ the King. Yeah. Then I went to Cater Park, which is now a Harris school. And then I went to the Brit School. So I'm lucky I've got friends from all of those schools, you know, and I'm quite grateful for that. So I'm going to assume that you guys have great friends. So what makes your friends special to you?
You know what makes my friends special is that they understand me, as I've had to learn to understand myself over the years, especially with some of the things I've had to go through and some of the stuff that I know a couple of you, well, all of you know actually, some of the personal things that I've gone through. I've had friends that understand how kooky I am. So there are things where I present myself professionally, but at home, some of the stuff I do is wild. Like I will, if I'm really excited, I'll roll around on the floor. Like it's an absolute sight to behold. And, you know, for the masses, they may not understand that. It's like, it's not drop and roll. There's no fire happening. It's just something I do to express some of the feelings that I have. So to have like really good friends that understand me and support me and say, yeah, if you want to roll, just mind you don't mash up my rug or mash up my table when you're rolling, then that's absolutely fine. So it's just having friends that believe in you and believe in what you do and nourish you without any form of bitterness or any form of kind of hidden agenda as well. I'm going to be your mate because you can get me to here, or etc. It's like if they're down, they still root for you. And if you're down, you still root for them. that's what makes really good friends.
Oh yeah, similar to you, Keisha. My closest friends are friends that I went to school with. Now, I've had different, as you grow, yeah, especially like you travel sometimes, you meet people from like different ends, and you get to know different people, yeah. And I've had people kind of like come in and out of my life. You see, you're friends with certain groups of friends for a season, and I know a lot of people, but in terms of like my close knit circle, them ones there where if things are going downhill, if I got troubles, if I need to get something off my chest, I've got a group of about 4 or 5 brothers, yeah, that I know that these guys I can speak to, and these guys I went to school with. These were the guys that basically could come to my mum's house and they know they're getting a plate of food. They could go to my mum's house even when I wasn't there. Do you see what I'm saying? Like if they see my mum out in public, they can give her a lift. They can stand there and chat to her. They can open my mum's fridge. Those are the people that are like my friends. My mum knows them by name, and like I'm 40 years old now. So these friends go back like 30 years, since like year 7, year 8 business. And because of that length of time that you've been friends, it's very difficult to throw that friendship away. So much has been invested in it. You know what I'm saying? We've had our ups, we've had our downs, we've been through the good times, the bad times, been in trouble together, celebrated our wins together, been at each other's weddings, kids' parties. We've seen the whole journey. Do you know what I'm saying? So irrespective of what takes place in life, those kind of friendships, you can't throw them away over like, little disagreements. You fight to keep that friendship because so much has been invested in it,
Yeah, fully agree. For myself, what makes my friends special is the level of respect, and the fact that everybody's individual. So again, like yourself, Merv, I know a lot of people, but I have like a small knit network of guys and girls, that are like the bona fides, those that have been around, like you said, like around my family, been there, around my wife, the kids, etc., all of that kind of stuff. So it's just the fact that they respect me and I respect them, and we respect each other for each other's differences, especially like my team of DJs that I have around me, like my team that I work with like on a day-to-day basis. Some of them are family, some of them I've known for 30 years plus. Some of them I may have known, like I think DJR I've probably known for like over 10 years. But there's such a bond between us. It's beautiful, and we just respect each other's differences. So like JR's, he's the banter king. My boy T21 Morris, he's the serious one. Then you've got Warner, he's the brains, and like we just respect each other for the fact that we are different. And then again, I've got another pair, which are like my 2 brother-in-laws, that we can get real deep and real. Do you know what I mean? And it allows us to stay balanced. Like a couple of weeks ago, we were all sat in our cars outside our houses for about 3 hours on a freeway call, just reasoning. Do you know what I mean? It weren't a bag of this, that, and the other, but the fact that we could just be 3 men around each other and just reasoning. Everybody, when we came off the call and we looked into the WhatsApp group straight away, everybody was just like, I needed that. Do you know what I mean? Like we laughed, we cried, we prayed together, like all of that kind of stuff. There's a level of respect for that my friends have, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Brotherhood definitely needed, 100%. 100%. Okay, so we don't always make the best decisions in life. Some decisions have been hit harder than others. When I did actually pose the question, I did kind of think, should I have it as worst decision you made as an adult or worst decision that you've made in your teens? So I'm going to give that as an option. So you can choose if you want to refer to your worst decision you've made as an adult or a teen.
I'd say the worst decision for myself particularly is not believing in myself and not allowing myself to be the type of person who is kind of replicated others in order to fit in. So to fit in with peers or fit in with individuals who I think, oh, maybe they'll accept me if I'm a bit more like them, and etc. And those have led to me losing myself and losing sight of myself, which then has meant that they're not getting a true reflection of who I am as a person. So then what happens if grievances happen or things happen, like you were saying, in friendship groups where grievances can happen, all of a sudden now when the person that I am comes out, it's a shock to people. And I think I lived like that for so many years because of whatever else I've gone through. I've lived like that for so many years where I feel like in my kind of late-ish adult, where I'm now 39 years old, and I feel very comfortable with who I am as a person. And I've realized that the people that gravitate to me now, I've had friends come back from when I used to be in school, the ones I pushed away to try and appease the others. They've come back and they said, we've always known you're cool. Now we know that you're who you are. We are now going to enjoy our friendship again. And it's really nice to be able to, like what Martin was saying, where you can sit down and reason with them. And, you know, some of my gripes, because I'm the only one out of some of my really good friends, I'm the only one with children, for instance. So sometimes when I'm calling them and I'm saying, oh my God, my son, they don't have kids, so they don't understand. But the nice thing is that they will listen. So it's just, and I extend this to anybody as well, because people are afraid to talk. If they're lost, they are afraid to talk about whether they're lost or not, because they don't want to seem like it's a weak thing to do. But I would say that finding yourself, or starting that journey to finding yourself, is the best thing that you can ever do, because it's now allowed me to meet such brilliant people. So I've known Martin for a long time now, but it's like you, Keisha, I feel like you're just my sister. You're just my sister. And Marvin, you've turned me from, because that Ghanaian jollof kind of whole thing beforehand, it's now turned, because now we're brother in arms. So I accept your jollof and I'll eat it. I accept
it's all good, Mark, man.
Sorry, bro.
It's the OV. Yeah. Yeah, Keisha, I know at the beginning you mentioned about whether it was one from either childhood or adulthood, and I kind of struggled with thinking of an answer at the time, because I wasn't sure where to go with it. However, following on from what Mark just said, and Mark, yeah, big up, man. That's an honest thing, man. And I think if enough guys, yeah, right, spoke the way you just spoke, what it does, it gives a sense of empowerment to others to also reflect and come out of their shell. You see what I'm saying? Because it's a bit like, you know, when you're in school, yeah, and there's a question, and maybe the teacher might ask the question and no one puts their hands up, and then someone else might put their hand up and say, sir, I didn't understand it. And the teacher will say, who else didn't understand it? And everyone else's hand goes up. So it's like, rah, we're all in the same boat, but people are too scared to come out with it. So in reflection, looking at my life, I wouldn't say it's one of the worst decisions, but it was definitely a decision that took me down a certain path. And that was when the first time I smoked weed, because I didn't actually want to do it. It wasn't within my desire. I didn't crave it. I wasn't looking for it. But a friend of mine who used to smoke weed like all the time, I was 16. And he was like, yeah, do it. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. So what are you talking about, man? Like, come on, man, bro, you just take it. And it's like, yeah, but I don't want to do it. Do you know what I'm saying? And this went on for a bit. And eventually I began to give in, because a lot of my friends at the time that were smoking weed, they were the so-called popular lads. Do you know what I'm saying? These were the lads that knew how to draw gal. These were the lads that wouldn't have it. These were the lads that, you know, come across very confident. And at that age, I wasn't the most like confident guy. I wasn't the most outspoken, loud kind of guy. I just kind of like was that easygoing brother. Anyway, I think when I did do that, right, I think it done something within me. Not necessarily the weed itself, yeah, but the decision to begin to do things because someone else has pressured me into it. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, I think it was always there, but from that point on, you know, the smoking turned from like, I've just tried it, to now smoking it a bit more often, to then, you know, smoking it by myself, to then obviously started to supply, you know, and it was a very short career. However, it set something in motion. And reflecting on what you were saying, Mark, it set something in motion whereby it was like not resisting and staying strong to myself and saying, I don't care what I look like, yeah, I'm not on it and I'm not doing it. And the worst thing about it is that I know like proper bad men who have never smoked weed. Do you know what I'm saying? I know guys that, listen, they're feared, but they've never smoked weed, sorry. And it just goes to show that it's not necessarily about the image. Do you know what I'm saying? And
Money. It was money. So I had finished college, straight, and then got a job at Car Phone Warehouse. Like literally, like weeks after, walked into this job. I'm living at home, and I'm like, what? I'm getting what, £2 a month. I'm still living at home. I'm giving mum and dad a little food money. And then I would say probably maybe for about 2 years, I was just splashing cash. I was catching cab from my house in like Balham/Tootingbeck to Wimbledon every day. Like in the morning, instead of just getting on the bus, nah, £7 there. Cha. Boom, boom, boom. Yo, my man. Yeah, boom. To the point where like the same cabman would come for me every day. He knew exactly what time. It got to a point where he even knew like my weekly rota, what days were my days off and that kind of stuff. So I was doing that. I've never been one to splash out on clothes and that kind of stuff, but it was like the small things then started to add up to big things. And it wasn't like I hadn't put myself into at that time like any kind of debt. But I could have been so much better with my money. And then God bless my auntie Paulette. She's no longer with us. Like she's my angel. And I think what I loved about her is that she allowed me, like she's been my rock from the day I was born. Like everything is Auntie Paulette. Like literally, nobody don't come before Auntie Paulette. So I think at that stage, instead of her intervening, I think she let me and we had a conversation years after, and I was like, I tried to put the blame on her. I was like, why didn't you just rein me in? Like you're Auntie Paulette. She was like, no, because you needed to learn. Like you needed that learning. You needed to go through that and then she sat me down and then we worked out how much money I had just squandered in like 2 years, and I was just like, wow. I mean, at these times I wasn't driving. Like I could have taken, and these times driving lessons were like £10. They were like £8 to £10. My uncle Lloydie is a instructor. Like I was, when I eventually started to do my lessons, I got discount. So I could have taken that money, invested that into my driving lessons, and then get my car insured. I could have done all that within that 2 years instead of me just catching cab to to work every day and buying a new suit every week, because them days like at Carphone we didn't wear uniform. We had to go in smart. So every day I got new suit. Every day they come, what new suit? Yeah, fam, new suit, brother. Like I was out here. But if I'd really focused and put that money into something sensible, then and then like after that, I think what I learned after that is that, one, education with regards to money is so important, and we all know that within the financial system they don't teach that. So like even with my own sons now, they're 9 years old. When I started doing like my events, Milk Trays Motivation Live, about 2 years ago, they actually came up to me one day at home. They said, Dad, can we have a store? Because they're around me a lot, so they hear me on the phone and they see when I'm sending emails and that kind of stuff. So they said, oh, Daddy, can we have our own store at the event? I said, yeah. What are you gonna do? There's like, we're gonna make lemonade. I was like, okay. And what are you gonna do? Like, we're gonna sell it. I was like, okay, cool. So they day before they went with mum, went and got all the stuff, made it all up. They knew how much they'd spent. They knew how much they needed to sell to make back what they'd spent, and then the profit. So I think on their first event they made £98. On the second one, they said, all right, come, let's up the ante, and it was coming up to Easter. So along with the lemonade, they added bun and cheese and little chocolate eggs and whatever. They made like £160, and then on the third one, they made like £140. So like that lesson that I learned with from my youth, I kind of, and then with my whole Auntie Paulette thing, I've just put that into my kids. So we've been talking to them about, you know, the difference between rent and mortgages and that kind of stuff.
What your purpose is?
That's quite an easy question for me to answer. My purpose is working with parents and community and children. Like you, Keisha, I've got a natural affinity working with kids. From really young, actually, children have always stared at me. It's either they've looked at me or they pointed to their adult and said, just pointed upwards. And I remember children calling me daddy when I was like 18 years old. I'm like, no, I'm not your father. Like, I'm not your dad. And you know, it's like I didn't know if I was going to go into education because I never really wanted to be a teacher as such. I just loved working with parents and children and young adults and the rest of it. And I found that they would listen to me.
Whoever I'm around, whether it's my family, my wife, my kids, general public, friends, strangers, people I work with, various different jobs, it's the same thing. I'm there to learn from my life, yeah, and whether it's books I'm reading, podcasts, YouTube, whatever, to help others raise their aspirations, you know, and in doing that, it helps to raise my own aspirations. Do you know what I'm saying? Because when you're helping others, it's a reflection on yourself. And literally, you know, as you're helping someone else, you think, actually, you know what? I also want to raise myself to a certain level. I also want to be motivated. I also want to increase. I also want to do something I haven't done before. Then I look at changing behavior. Man, listen, I've still got a list of certain things I want to change, but then I can also look in my rear view and see how many things I have changed. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's just changing my behavior.
Interesting road. And the places that I've been, not just like physically, but like mentally, emotionally, it's been a long journey. And I'd say probably back in 2012, I realized that I had a passion for doing radio in the morning. So I've been on radio since like 2003. I started on Delight FM with So Solid and all of that kind of stuff back in the day when man is all of that business. Mark's a professional at that as well, I just want to say. And then, you know, I've moved radio stations and I've always been on, some of us call it pirate. I prefer the term community. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to make my mom and dad upset, make it feel like I'm doing something illegal. But I've been doing like community radio for a long time. I moved to On Top back in 2008, and then I had the opportunity to do breakfast on the station. But at the same time, I was working full time, so I was at Carphone full time. I had, well, she wasn't the wife then, but yeah, we were together. We had the twins, the mini milks. And work was really, the balance in my life was really like this. It was out of place. So I was doing 50, 60, 70 hours at Carphone as a manager. And just my quality of life was just so poor. But music was the one thing that kept me going. So it got to a point where God was like, look, I need you to do this thing, but it's crazy because I want you to do radio in the mornings for free. Happened because they were listening to motivation every day. So I've now kind of that's just who I am now. So it's beyond just the motivation. I know that I can lift somebody else's spirits just by playing music for 20 minutes. So ultimately it's just to inspire and guide and just use my story and my life as an example to let somebody else know that realistically it can be done. Like whether it be you kind of following your passion or losing weight. I mean, Mark knows me personally, but 8 years ago I was like 22 stone. I'm
Mervyn's face.
I was 22 stone, B, and now I'm down to 15.
Amazing.
And in the last, like, even so, since the end of January, so end of Jan I was 17 and a half stone. I'm now down to 15. And I've been using that to, inspire others. So I've been going live. So last week we went live on my IG, and kind of telling people how I've done it with regards to intermittent fasting and dieting, and well, not even dieting, but just eating proper. So I just want to use my life as an example and just inspire somebody else.
Thank you guys for sharing, some things about your past and etc. I really do appreciate your honesty. So we're talking about how do we develop healthy relationship with teen boys. And all of you have worked with teenagers. Some of you have been to schools where it's just boys. Some of you are working with teenage boys. So how do we develop the skills in young men to form healthy relationships and to really respect women so they can then form healthy relationships as adults?
Do you know what? That's a really good question. One that actually I did a PHSE lesson. I've just literally posted it on Show My Homework, because especially in the school I am now where it's all boys, I noticed how derogatory boys can end up becoming, because now there's no girls there. So when you're in a mixed school, when I was working in a mixed school prior, sometimes you put it down to, well, they're at that particular age, so therefore they're only doing what, say, not necessarily myself, but when I was at their age, it's going to be the same kind of thing. It's just we're in a different time, an era now. But when I notice how derogatory some of the words that they use, some of the misogynistic ways in which young boys talk about women, I find it quite alarming myself. So what I've started doing is little things, and I'm going to be quite brutal on this. When I hear some boys, I'm going to use some language as well, so please, I do apologize, but I'm just going to give it to the heart of what these boys say. Like, a lot of the phrase I hear is "suck your mum." I hear that all the time. And a boy will get angry about that and say, "That's my mum you're talking about. Why are you talking about my mum?" So I say, but the way in which you talk about women, why can't that boy say that he wants to do that to your mum? Because you're talking about girls and women like that anyway. And that's when you can see the cogs in a boy's head working, and he's like, I never thought of it like that. Because I say, when you're talking like that, there's somebody else that's going to talk to your sister, talk to your auntie, talk to your mum, talk to whoever in your family that's female that way. And if you're going to beat everybody up when they say something wrong about the women in your family, then why don't you look at yourself? So I do something where it's leading by example. For instance, like at my school, they see me hold the doors open for women. This is just something that I do. I've always done it. I hold the doors open for women. When I go in, I will say, have you greeted the teacher yet? Have you said, good morning, miss? Don't call her by her first name. Good morning, miss. It's little things, even in the way in which I dress. So I dress a certain way. I present myself a certain way so that these boys have pride. They see when I talk to my colleagues how I will shake a lady's hand. I'm not going in there full force and mashing off her hand or doing anything like that. I'm shaking her hand differently than how I would shake a male's hand. So they can see these things, because I think sometimes it's not necessarily spoken stuff. It's little nuances that kids needs to see in order for them to start replicating that. Because once they see these nuances, because the nuances happen all the time, you could tell a child, don't talk about a girl like that, but then they're going to go home and listen to drill music, and that drill music is going to contain lyrics that I've been bashing their heads about, talking about it all day. So it's
man, the strongest voice right now is peer pressure. It's the voice of your peers. Whether people like to admit it or not, the voice of their peers is a massive, massive, massive voice. And the confidence to be able to say, I don't care what you think, I'm going to treat her right, yeah? It's got to come from such a deep, strong conviction. Do you know what I'm saying? And one of the things I say to young people, yeah, is that all of you have got opinions, and it's great to have an opinion. But how many of you have got convictions? Because there's a difference between the two. I might hold an opinion, but a conviction holds me. In other words, even if I see a situation or I'm involved in something where I might want to do what isn't right, because of my convictions, I decide, no, I can't. These convictions hold me. I'm a married man. I've been married for 10 years. It'll be 11 years this summer. My convictions hold me. Do you think I don't see pretty girls? You think I don't see women outside? I see them. But my conviction holds me and tells me, you're a married man, you got a family, not for you, bro. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't because my conviction holds me. And when I think about my journey, I always wanted to treat women right and treat women nice with respect. When I got to about 16, I started falling into the patterns of what my friends were doing and found that I'll be accepted more if I treated women like objects. And I found myself gravitating towards doing that, even though it wasn't my core belief system. You know what I mean? However, as I got older and I came to faith, I began to see that, do you know what, that's someone's daughter. That's somebody's sister. She's not an object for you. She's her own person. Do you know what I'm saying? She's her own person. And I do voluntary work in the prison. And when I do talk about girls, I'll gas them up a little bit, like, God, yeah, you know that girl, yeah, you know that way, and they're gassing. And I'm like, yeah. So what would you do if that was your sister? Nah, man, nah, not having it. I'm like, my bro, you have to bring the mirror out. So in answering your question in regards to what can we do, yeah, I think my mum always used to say charity begins at home. I think in the home is where it starts, right, yeah? So someone said to me, Merv, how can you best show your love towards your kids? Or how can you best love your kids? And I was like, this is a trick question. He said, no, I just want to know, how can you best love your kids? And I said, just tell me, because and they said, love their mother. Love their mother, and you will demonstrate the best love that you can to your children. You know what I'm saying? And love is not a feeling, it's a choice. You decide to love. And I decide to demonstrate my love. So I'll give my missus a hug in front of my kids. I'll give her a kiss in front of my kids. I will make her a cup of tea in front of my kids. I'll speak to her nicely in front of my kids. So that's the first imprint of how you treat a woman. That's the imprint. And then as they grow, they'll begin to take that into their lives. And yeah, they're going to be tempted by their peers. They're going to be tempted, but that conviction has to stay so deep within them that even when they do feel a bit drawn out, they'll be like, nah, that's wrong. That's wrong. And they've got to be strong enough to be able to say, nah, that's not right. But it starts within the home. And I think as we go out, like Mark was saying, it's demonstrating it out in the wider public. So if people are cracking jokes about certain things, like if I'm in a school, if I'm with friends or wherever, how much am I going to participate?
I mean, when, like, obviously music is and obviously from a DJ perspective, music is a massive influence. You know, it influences the way we talk, the way we dress, etc. And I remember, growing up, mid to late 90s, we primarily had what? We had Lil Kim, Foxy Brown, if we're talking about hip hop and that, like we had those, and then like Salt and Pepper was still floating about. But then at the same time, you had the Brandies, the Monicas, you had the SWVs, the Cut Closes. So even the balance, if you look at it from a musical perspective, it was a lot more balanced. Now it's just this. It's just like it's just out there, isn't it? Like you look at the music that not even just the boys are listening to, but the girls. Do you know what I mean? It's really kind of gone the other way. I mean, even down to like R&B content. Like from a DJ perspective, I find it really uncomfortable when I hear R&B artists swearing. Like especially females. Like, it just don't sit. Like, Janae Aiko is an amazing artist, but my God, this girl, she just, like, I have to ask the labels, please, beg you, just send me the clean version.
Yeah.
Don't send me the other version. I just need the clean version. And I think that as much as the guys need challenging, I feel the girls need challenging as well. Because they're still, and I think what they lack, and I think when we were growing up, I think girls still remember that ultimately they had the power. Like, the man's got to come to you, yeah. And then obviously, you went through that whole kind of, hey, come here, let me get your number. No, oh, your butters anyway. Like, that's we've all been there, yeah. Like, we've all been around the man. Them, I was never that guy. Like, my dons will tell you, I was way too sweet for that. But I think we need to kind of challenge the girls as well. We need to maybe get them to readjust how they're thinking, because they feel that in this twerk kind of world, that's the only way that they can be accepted. And we're seeing that the change is happening, and it's getting younger and younger. So we've got younger girls, going to school with wigs and eyelashes and contours and all. I'm like, raw, like,
Sorry.
no, but this is
Yeah.
this is
No, it's
really,
so
like,
true. So true.
so. Do you know what I mean? Like, the girls are giving off this impression so that they can be accepted. And I think when we were kind of growing up, it was just more of a case where, girls were a little bit more happier or confident to be girls. You know what I mean? And then, like, obviously you might have had that girl in school that might have developed a bit more fruitful than others a little bit earlier, but then she might have, sometimes, in most cases, she was that girl, like, she kind of play it down. Like, she'd always have a puffer jacket on, that kind of thing. Now, they're going to school and everything's out, and you're like, what? Like, this is the thing. I think that there's balance in it. The guys, we need to work on them. But again, I think ultimately the girls, they have the power. Do you know what I mean? And I feel it's a confidence thing where they feel if they don't do a certain thing, or if they're not, acting a certain way, then they're not gonna be accepted. And I feel that I think they need maybe a bit more work than the guys, because I feel like if the girls started to kind of take ownership of it, and then kind of, because after a while the guys would have to kind of rethink their strategy. If the girls were a little bit more like, you know what, oh no, we're not having that. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to feel like I'm pressured into going into school with wig and contour. And, like, it's I think that's where it's quite evident. And I think that's it's a thing that we're missing.
What age group do you think that healthy relationships should be taught for our young children?
I think it needs to be taught at an age. I think it needs to be taught at year 6 now. I've got a daughter in year 5, and I'm quite glad that my daughter's still quite innocent. She's very much a little girl in the way she sees things. But I've taken to a few of her friends' parties recently, and I can see that her friends are a bit more advanced. So, not advanced in the fact of boys, but like, one of the party bags that my daughter got, it had like 30 makeup items in there. And my daughter doesn't wear makeup yet. Yes, I do allow her to experiment. So, for instance, she'll paint my nails, and I allow her to do that because I want her to be able to express herself. I don't want her to think that she can't do these things for me, and etc. And during the holidays, I allow her to paint her nails, but that's as far as it's gotten so far. So now my daughter's asking me about face makeup, and she's year 5. She's 10 years old now, so she's at an age where I know her mum's talking to her and explaining these kind of things. But if my daughter's now being subjected to that, then it's only going to lead to something else happening, because the reason for some women wearing makeup is obviously to make themselves look beautiful and all the rest of it. But then some women do it in order to attract the opposite sex. as well. There are some people that do that. I'm not saying it's everybody, but there are some women that will do it because they feel that that's what they need to do to attract the opposite sex. And whilst my daughter's on that kind of journey of finding herself, because she's going to end up becoming a teenager and all the rest of it, she's going to find her space and where she fits. I don't want that to end up being where she has to learn the hard way. I'm not saying that she's not going to go through it, but like what Mervyn was saying with convictions, I want her to have the convictions that myself and her mother have taught her. I need those instilled, so when she does find herself in a situation, along with the convictions of other people that will help her, so educators, for instance, where if somebody went into her school at year 6 and said, this is the start of healthy relationships, this is how boys and girls should be, this is how girls should be, this is how boys should be, this is how they interact. At least if it starts from kind of a lower tier and then works up as I think it needs to be taught every kind of 6 months. And I think it needs to stay with them from year 6, working right up until around year 9, year 10. I'd say that's when it needs to be taught right up till every 6 months, and it follows them. Because some parents aren't going to address that at home. Like, I know my dad didn't address anything with me growing up. He just said to me, you must wear certain things. And that was it. That was all the talk that I got. So it's, at the end of the day, I feel, whereas the world that we live in now, like you're talking about with the swarms and these things and girls twerking just freely, social media now has opened up in a completely different way to what we had. If you remember the disparity between ourselves living here in the UK and America, unless you had family in America, all that music that we were listening to in the videos we were seeing were over there, unless you had like BET or Yo MTV Raps, and you could stay and watch those things later.
So at this young age, I'm teaching my kids in situations and circumstances that happen. It might be something on TV. I might pause it and say, well, what did you think about that? Would you do that to your friends? If your friends did that to you, how would you behave? I'm trying to find out, you know, I'm drip feeding them with getting them to understand how to reflect. Just how to reflect. And obviously, as they get older, the content will become a bit more age appropriate to where they are in their age. But from now, I'm looking at tackling their thought process by just asking them questions. What would you do in that situation? Do you think that would make that person happy? Or do you think that would make them sad? How do you feel about what's just happened just now? And I feel like that's the kind of teaching that doesn't happen in schools. And that's why they have to get people like me to come into schools to do that kind of talking, you know? And I also do a lot of work in North London with looked after children. And because a lot of them didn't...
Because I know that with regards to the growing up factor, and I know, again, a lot of the children that we're concerned about may not have that person. But I feel like there's always somebody we can manipulate and use to kind of pull on their heart. Because Dad always said to me, don't make police ever come knock my door. Because trust me, if police knock my door, they can't save you. Police can't save you. So, do you know what I mean? And I feel like we need to maybe, and as a parent, I'm just talking as a parent, I'm looking at it from the fact that I've got 2 boys. I need to make sure that these boys are balanced. And like Merv said, like, I'm teaching them how to communicate with each other. Even when I'm here in my room, my studio room, their bedroom is like 2 rooms away. I'm constantly listening, because you see when they're on Fortnite and they're playing online and they got their ear tinging, but man, shut up. What? Hello? What am I always doing? You're always listening, Daddy. Yeah?
Aww.
You're always listening. That's right. I'm always listening. But I'm teaching them how, like, just because you're playing online with somebody doesn't mean that you can speak down to somebody because they're not there. Like, I'm teaching you that because ultimately I want you to grow up and be balanced. Like, if I could pull any of my boys in here and I say to them, boys, what is Daddy trying to teach you? To be responsible young men. They'll come and tell you that. Yeah? And what's the one thing that I feel that you're lacking in? Common sense. They'll tell you that. They'll tell you that.
It's funny.
I'm saying like I think we need to pull on the heartstrings and just let them know that the respect factor needs to be there, whether it be for the other sex or just for general human beings in just any walk of life. Do you know what I mean? It's a very different world compared to when we were growing up. We're now growing up in a world where, you know, there are different people from different walks, different backgrounds, different sexualities, like, but we still got to have a level of respect. And I feel if we can get that right, we can get a lot more balance done with regard to them having healthier relationships. That's
a lot. Young people are seeing they're losing friends. There's so many things to tackle. So when you think about either in your adulthood or childhood, an experience where you've witnessed violence, Mark.
Yeah, this one's a tough one because I did a podcast about, because not many people know what I actually grew up witnessing. I won't put necessarily all context in now, but my mum was 11 when she had me, and as anybody could understand, she's a child, and she also was 11 and was brought to this country to have an arranged marriage. So it wasn't a marriage that was born out of you meet the partner you meet and you court or you date or you do what you're doing and then you find love that way. It was just you two are going to be together. And my father was considerably older than my mum. When it comes to violence, if we put it on a scale of 1 to 10, you couldn't even put what I witnessed in that 1 to 10 bracket. It far surpassed anything that I think anybody would see. You know, there's two ways that you can go about things. There was the way that I could have easily followed those footsteps and ended up in, I don't even think it would be prison. I would have been dead. I would have been a very horrendous man if I had followed those footsteps, or I became really introverted. So I just became a shadow of everything, and it links back to me not knowing myself. So everything that I witnessed in my childhood still resonates with me now, in the fact that it's only now that I've come to realize that I can be myself. It's only now that I've come to realize that my past doesn't make me who I am as a person now in the present. And it leaves horrible scars. And, you know, like you were saying, Keisha, as well, with now the internet and all these kind of platforms ultimately glamorizing violence. So they will show things where, like you're saying, you could post a selfie of yourself, or you could post something where somebody's getting run down and people are laughing and it gets millions of views. And you post something that shows the complete opposite of it, nothing. 1 or 2 likes, because people don't want to process that. They want the kind of things that Milk Tray was saying, the dopamine, just, oh, let me see somebody getting rushed, let me see somebody getting beaten up. And it has become normalized, unfortunately, with all these kind of knife crimes and stuff like that happening now. You're getting young boys and young girls saying that they feel it's normal. Like growing up where I lived in particular environments where that was more rife, but it was rife within just that environment. It wasn't where you would go then, what would say, into country and go and see that happening. Whereas now it's just anywhere. Anybody can get it anywhere at any time and it'll be filmed. And it's normal now for these young people. So they're not really scared of knife crime as such anymore. Like growing up, even though I witnessed what I witnessed, I was still very scared of those things. I remember boys pulling out things and with all sorts of instruments and weapons that they shouldn't have, and thinking, what on earth are you going to do with it? It frightened me. But to these young people, there's no fear in that sense, or they don't show fear as we would have shown fear growing up. To them now, it's just, oh yeah, but he got stabbed. Oh yeah, but he died. Oh, but that's because he did something.
I think my brain's blotted it out, yeah? But I can't think of many times where I actually witnessed it, but I knew it took place. I think there was one where I witnessed, it was a bit of a struggle. It was just like a struggle, and police were around again, you know. So I remember police coming around quite often and stuff. But I didn't witness too much of it, or my brain's blocked out what I did with this, you know. But growing up, you know, I went to a boys' school, so we see a lot of fights in school and stuff. And I also grew up, you know, we grew up in the wrestling era, you know, them ones, WWF. So literally every day somebody was jumping off a table and doing an elbow drop on somebody, clotheslining people in the corridor and stuff like that, you know. But I think maybe the first the first violence that really stuck with me was when I saw a friend of mine get stabbed in his face. Yeah, outside college, Richmond College. And he's still got a scar going down the side of his face now. And man, I froze. Because it was just like, it happened so quick. I didn't see it, but I saw it. And all I remember is blood just kind of like coming out of his side of his head like that. And I was just like, what just happened? I was just in shock. But yeah, growing up, yeah, you saw the odd few fights in a boys' school. You can imagine going to a boys' school, what's going on. And I didn't really see a lot of violence towards women, you know. And even though I know that my dad probably did, well, he did lay his hands on my mum, he always did say, make sure you never touch a woman. Make sure you never touch a woman, you know? And I don't know whether that came out of guilt or maybe he realized, like, I don't want my sons to go through what I'm carrying right now.
The only time, the first experience I had though was when I saw somebody get rushed. Back in the day, Clapham Junction, 28s versus Junction. Like it was peak. That was my first. That was the first time I saw like violence, like in my own eyes. I saw the 28s on a bus, a 37 bus coming from Peckham, from Bricky. There was no civilians on the bus. It was just a bus full of 28s coming down into Junction, and the McDonald's, like this was the day. Do you remember when McDonald's did the Trivial Pursuit scratch cards?
Yeah.
I'm talking again. And like these man just ran into the McD's and it was on, and I just saw heads flying and all of that, and I said, that is not for me. I need to be well away from that lifestyle. And again, it always kind of reverted back to just the kind of fear factor of my dad. Like, oh, so you end up in Rush. Okay. Oh, so you're out there rushing. You're rushing somebody else's picnic. All right. Oh, but all right, cool. Come sit down. I'm gonna rush you. That's my dad. That's how my dad operates. So I'm just very aware now that I need to kind of show my sons a different.
I'm gonna always like to end on a positive. So I want you to think now, a moment working with young people that really touched you, and that could be feedback from a student or anything. So Mark.
You know, I get a lot of stuff, and what I will say is, because I don't want to sound like I'm gloating, because I do get a lot of stuff, but what I will say is that I'm very privileged to have children express themselves the way they do to me, and parents and grandparents and aunties and carers and all the rest of it, when they see that where I come from is a genuine place. So I feel that every day I kind of leave a positive mark on kids every day. I'm always receiving phone calls from people. It's like even having Martin, my son, here now, having my son here, Martin, it's an amazing thing to have my son Milk Tray here and see the flourishing, because I've raised him. I've raised Martin, and I've raised him to be the he is now. And so, son, is there anything you want to say, son, now? Is there anything you want to say to that?
Oh, goodness.
No, but to end it on a positive note, I love the people that I work with. I love the people that I see. It's like a positive thing for me as well. I say, Keisha, I will talk about you. You are an absolutely phenomenal woman. I have to tell you that you're just the way you are as a person, your spirit, your humbleness, your mentality, everything about you, Keisha. They need to make 50 more of you.
Oh,
times 10, times 100. You're amazing. You've managed to link me with so many decent people. It's like I met Mervyn through you, and Mervyn, I had actually, funny enough, bumped into Mervyn prior to meeting you, and that's when you came into my school, Mervyn, with Chris.
Yes, that was what school was that?
St. John Bosco.
Yes.
Yeah. And I got to meet you then, but it was very brief. And then I got the privilege of meeting you through yourself, Keisha. So you need to understand that that's a very positive thing that's happened in my life. Meeting
something that they've reflected on. And Yeah, the kids, man. Sometimes it's emotional. Do you know what I'm saying? When you've done the 6 weeks with them, and sometimes I have fights with them. Do you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes they get like around session 3, they get a bit familiar and they start taking liberties, and that's when I have to kind of like become like an adult, like a parent, and switch on them, and then you see them like you know. So we have our ups and downs, but we stick at it. And I remember, I mean, it's so funny. There was this kid, and like I said, I've worked with different groups, and they've all been so amazing. Like such a privilege to work with. They've all been, and they've all said many wonderful things, right? But there was one thing that one kid said, right, yeah, that really it gave me joke, yeah, but I think he really meant it, right? So this is in East London. Troublesome group, year nines. Oh my days, did my head in. But we stuck with it. We stuck with it all the way to the end. And on the last session, I brought some chocolates in for them. What do they call those ones? Celebrations. Gave some celebrations. And as I was getting ready to finish, the head of year 9 came in and said, "Has anyone got anything that they want to say to Mervyn before he finishes? Because we're not sure if we're going to see him again." And they were going around saying, "Thank you, sir. Sir, I really enjoyed it. Thank you, you made an impact on my life. Thank you, sir." And then one kid said, "Sir, I love you," like that, right? And it was like,
Oh.
it made me laugh, right? Yeah. But when I looked at him, I think he really meant it. Do you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. And he was like, and then he started laughing. He was like, "No, I do. You know,
So
it made
sweet.
me laugh, yeah. But I kind of like respected him for being able to be honest. Because certain man would turn around and say, "Right, you're gay, bruv. Right, how can you say that? Da da da," kind of thing. But he meant it. Do you know what I mean? And I think he was just trying to express himself. And I always remember him for that one, man. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I mean, it's not often you get a student tell you that they love you, man. Do you know what I'm saying? But it did make me laugh, man. But yeah, funny kid.
Thank you. And Martin.
I mean, the kids that I work with are a lot younger. So I do DJ workshops as an after school program, teaching kids how to DJ with the Rights Academy. Big up to my bro DJR. Kind of helps put that together. And I've been doing that for like over 2 years. And just to see their little faces in that regard, because and what I've realized with the whole DJing thing is that I'm getting a real mixture of children. So I'm getting children from, and predominantly I get more girls than guys in my classes. And there's one guy called Alex who's family from Eastern European, from Poland. And he's got a few little disabilities, but his passion for music and DJing. He does double lessons. He does 2 lessons a week. He's in my Monday and Friday class. And just to see the first day when he actually caught the beat and the timing, and then he, got into the crossfader, and then he started taking the bass out and then putting the echo on, and just being able just to see that, and then having a conversation with his parents, like, because what I do at the end of not each term, but every like 2 terms, we get the parents in. We get the parents to come in on the last session and kind of show them what we've been studying over the last like 10 to 12 weeks. And that session, she came up to me. She's like, "He's a totally different child. He's a lot more confident. He speaks a lot more, whether it be in other classes or his teachers are saying that he's speaking a lot more at home." And just to know that I've kind of made that impact on somebody from a totally different walk of life. Do you know what I mean? Like, when it's your own, it's like, yeah, like you feel a little bit more because they look like you. But to know that somebody from a totally different walk of life, and not only the effect that it's had on him, but on his family as well, that it could have, and this is why I'm very, very big on manners in general, because you don't know what kind of seed you're planting. So in the mornings, I like to go for a walk, just to do with my fitness and whatever. But if I encounter anybody, regardless of the walk of life they come from, I will always say good morning, because you don't know what kind of seed you're planting. Because to them, I could just look like the average little roadman, innit? But if I say good morning, mom, or morning, sir, like, you don't know what kind of effect or what kind of planting of a seed that could have on somebody, because you don't know what kind of walk of life they come from. They could be a barrister, somebody in the law system or whatever, who could then potentially be in a scenario, who sees somebody who looks and sounds just like me and be like, I remember that guy who looked like that, but kind of said good morning to me that morning. Maybe, just maybe, I might not be so harsh, or it could be a police officer or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm very, very aware of that. So being able to affect him and his family in that way and kind of plant seeds in them, it's just been one of the most rewarding things ever.
Oh, man. That is amazing. You know, so thank you for making it possible. I really do appreciate you guys.
It's all good. I would have been happier with the trim, but you know, you can't have it all in it.
Oh, I can't lie. I sorted mine yesterday still. I sorted mine.
I'm just leaving mine. I'm just out here. I'm just unruly right now. You know, like that.
Nah, you're looking good, bro, man. You're looking all right, man.
You are, man.
I need someone to take a picture.
1, 2, 3.